Jason, how you doing, brother?
Good, man. How you doing?
Good. Welcome back to the show. It's awesome to have you on. What was it? Texas. Texas was the last time we had you on.
Down in Houston at South Coast Welding Academy.
Yeah, a lot of fun, man. Absolutely a lot of fun. We got to kind of delve into a little bit of your background. Now, you are a CWI, and that is kind of the subject of today, as I am getting ready to go for my second attempt at the CWI test. You've gone through it already. Things have changed in the way that the testing is actually done, so I think talking about it today is going to really help out a lot of people, because I know it's changed a lot since taking all three tests in one day. Now it's quite separate a little bit. So before we get into how everything exactly works, for those that didn't hear you on the first time around, let's kind of get into your background on your history in the industry that ultimately led you up to a certified welding inspector.
Okay. Yeah. I started off at the age of 15 going to a vocational school. I could take, classes during the day along with my high school classes as kind of like electives. And I really took to it, really, started to enjoy it, and graduated high school, joined the Marine Corps, and I was lucky enough to, become a welder there. So I got trained, by the military to be a welder. Did 4 years, a couple of deployments and stuff like that over to the sandbox, came back home and kind of wanted to stick with welding. I was looking for jobs and stuff, and got hired on with this structural steel erection crew. And I was doing all their stairs and aluminum handrails and stuff at this residential park, and kind of left there about a year into it. Kind of wasn't my thing. Just the working environment wasn't conducive to the type of job or occupation that I wanted to have. So I left and joined another crew and did prefab structural buildings for about 3 years with them, and did basically all their welding. I was the only welder on their team. And so I traveled all around the state of Florida, putting up buildings and, welding up perimeter angle and decking and bar joists and all that for them. And got into the union right around 2010, did a couple years there. And I mean, I was planning on staying there. I was, really happy with how they treated me, how everything was, the benefits, pay, the work environment, everything was great. And I was taking classes for bachelor's degree in construction management, and one of the professors, he asked me if I wanted to go teach their welding class that they were opening, and I said no, that's not something I'd be interested in. And he kind of harped on me for a while, throughout the 16 weeks of the term, and finally I took him up on it. I was like, I'll try this on a temporary basis. I'll teach one term, keep my book good with the union, and got into it, taught my first class. Man, I fell in love with it, and it kind of took off from there. I went in 2015. I got selected as a section rep for my local AWS section. And what that does is you kind of go down to the AWS CWI seminar, and you just help out the lead instructor that's there. You go make copies. You get books. You make sure everything's set up for the class. You pass out material and booklets and stuff like that. But the cool thing was I actually got to sit down and be a part of the class. So through the AWS, I got to take the CWI seminar for free, as well as get the books and the toolkit and all that. I just wasn't able to test that Saturday.
Now, this is just the 1 week seminar, correct? That's just
the 1 week seminar. So just going through that class, I seen what all it would take to be a CWI, and taking that class in 1 week. That Saturday I volunteered as a proctor, so I could help, administer the test to the people I was in class with, and just pass out the booklets, set the timer and all, help out the test supervisors and stuff, do their thing. And I just kind of seen those guys, and I was like, man, these guys are all stressing out. They're freaking out with this stuff, which I can't blame them. Taking that 1 week class it's like trying to take a sip of water out of a fire hose. There's just so much information in a short amount of time, And I was like, well, I kind of realized what I needed to do. If I want to get my CWI, I need to start studying and get some additional training and everything. The code book part, I wasn't a stranger to it, but having a structural steel background, but just the additional information that's in there that you don't see outside of a regular SMAW, 3G test and stuff like that. There's a lot more to that code book than people think. So I started studying, doing some more research and stuff like that. Did some online classes with AWS, and then I decided to go up to Real Educational in LJ, Georgia. They had some great reviews about their facility, the classes they offered. It's a 2-week program. That's the one I was recommended to you when we were in Houston. We talked about it. And Gerald and Linda, the instructors up there, they're just amazing, and they kind of, they take time with everybody and just kind of walk you through everything you're going to need to know to take that test. And 2 weeks later, you take that test, and that Saturday at their facility, and I think I was really well-rounded and prepared to take the exam. I felt confident walking into it, not cocky, but confident, and taking the exam and everything. I thought I did pretty decent. And a couple weeks later, I got my results, and then I followed up by the card in the mail. And man, I was relieved, because I've just supervising the exams in the past. I've seen some people come in there 3-4 times to come retake the exam because they missed a part of it or a couple parts of it. So it was just really cool to be able to go in there and knock it out the first shot and not have to worry about it anymore.
Yeah, that's a major win. I mean, that's a very, very major win to be able to do it the first time, because 90% of everybody that I've met that has taken this test has failed the first time, gone back and passed the second time.
Right.
Because you're right. There is so much information. And, I never went through the AWS 1-week course itself, but having gone to Hobart for their CWI class, after 1 week of that, if I was to be given the test at the end of that, there's no way in hell that you're ready for something like that. I mean, it's if you pass, wow, that's some serious brain power or luck or a little bit of both.
Either that, or you've been in the industry, you've been working with a CWI outfit and stuff like that, so you kind of know how to navigate the code book a little bit better. You get a better understanding of it. But just coming straight out of welding and walking into it and taking the exam, there's a lot of information you really might want to check up on before you go into there. And I think what throws a lot of people off is the test and how it's structured. There's not a whole lot of information on exactly, here's what to expect on exam day. It's 3 2-hour portions. You got part A, B, and C. A is general knowledge. Your B is your hands-on practical, and C is your code book. Each section is 2 hours apiece. Various questions, like your general knowledge portion. That's all closed book. That's 150 questions in 2 hours. So you really have to have a good hands-on grasp of your welding symbols, inspection techniques, welding safety, things of that nature.
Yeah, for sure. You mentioned, and I'm doing the same thing too. But for those that are listening, how long did you actually study before you went to Real Education in LJ to take the test? How long did you study before the actual pre-study seminar?
Well, they send you like an informational packet. You're supposed to start studying that 2 weeks before you even get to class, and they give you some homework before you're supposed to get there. You probably already have all that.
Oh yeah.
Honestly, my intent was to come home every night and study 2-3 hours every night, but for the 2 weeks before I went to sit down in their class, and life got in the way, and the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, and I think I answered about 15 or 20 questions before I actually left Florida to get up to Georgia, out of that practice exam book.
Wow.
So, I checked in, Sunday afternoon in LJ, and I sat down and started going through trying to knock out the rest of the homework, and I think I might have turned in maybe half, and I don't even know what degree of accuracy I had the questions answered.
There is a lot of different avenues that people can go down, because we're talking about Real Education right now. We brought up the AWS course. To kind of pull back on this, the AWS does offer a 1-week CWI seminar to help you take this test.
Yes.
Hobart School of Welding Technology offers a 2-week course to help you pass this test. I went to that personally. The part that was harder for me with Hobart was there was too much story time when it came to the actual classroom. It wasn't, this is how we're going to pass this test. These are the things you need to learn. There was maybe a little bit of that during the class, and the rest was just story time about how stuff used to be. And that's not what I paid all that money to go there for.
No.
I got close to passing that test, so it's not like what they offer is bad. It's just, it wasn't for me. And I don't want to say which one is better, because I know people learn at all different ways. For some people, Hobart was probably the best thing that ever happened to them because they've got their CWI, everything's changed, and now good for them. But for me personally, I found issues with it because it was the story time, okay, during actual lecture. And then it was the fact that even their curriculum, we're taking the test on the 2015 code book. Their curriculum was based on the 2010 code book. So there was questions that they were sending you home with to do homework, telling you where things are in the code book that aren't there. And you're wasting
everything's
hours.
been shifted around.
Yes, you're wasting hours that night looking for one question, and everybody comes in the next day pissed off going, this is not in the code book. We all spent hours looking for this. And they're like, oh yeah, that's changed with the new code book because this stuff is based on the old code book. I'm like,
yeah.
Why am I spending $1,500 to come here to learn old stuff? You know what I mean? It made no sense to me. That was the biggest seller for me to go to Real Education after I spoke to you, because you had told me about not only the success rate that they have, but the intensive course that is actually in that 2 weeks, Yeah,
it's definitely, it's not easy. By far, I think every night, we got out of there about 5 o'clock and we'd have at least 5 to 6 hours of homework each night. And, I'd answer all the questions. I'd come back in the next morning feeling confident. I found this exact answer right here, but it's like you miss a footnote or, you miss a tab or a reference or something like that. And, you got the wrong answer. So
yeah,
it's pretty in depth they've really, really good stuff. The instructors are awesome. I've got nothing but good things to say about them. And Gerald there, the one instructor, when he does the class, he has some stories and stuff too, but they're all stories that make that information that he's trying to teach you. You can recall that during the test, so he gives out different stories about, old Miss Betty down the road baking a cake, and, you kind of equate that to the composition of fluxes and just admixtures and things like that. And it makes sense.
Okay.
It's pretty cool. He's, kind of down home country feel. But he's got a way of doing it that just makes you remember the information.
Yeah. The other thing I really like too is the weekend, because at Hobart during the 2 weeks you have that weekend off. Like they're like, yeah, kind of go over and look at some stuff, kind of keep refreshed. That's not the case with Real Education. You have homework to do. You are doing homework constantly. It is constantly homework.
They give you enough homework that weekend, to make up for the class time that you're not getting that Saturday and Sunday.
Yeah. And I can really tell the difference in educational level too. It just necessarily with how they explain things with Real Education, just by going off of the book that I've got from them, for just the general knowledge stuff, just for general knowledge homework. They're speaking to you like this is how a welder would speak to another welder. This is written by someone that knows how to speak to us, and it clicks. So, to me, I have hope this time. I have a lot of hope this time. And another thing too that I wanted to bring up is because I know a lot of people can't necessarily take those 2 weeks to leave and go somewhere to do this kind of a test. For those that can't, there is an online training option for the Certified Weld Inspector certification. And that is through a company that has sponsored the show in the past. The company is called SI Certs. They offer an 80-hour online course that you can access for up to 3 months. It's got everything that you need in it. Not only that, they send you books, and they also send you, which I haven't seen from anybody else, they send you plastic test samples that you're going to be using for your Part B.
Right.
So you get these hands-on, and you get tools to measure everything with. That has helped me big time, because now I actually have something to hold on to actually go through and measure before I get there, where if you don't have that and you just kind of get thrown in there, this is the first time you're holding those pieces, is the first time you're taking that test. That part is very difficult, and that is the part I think where the actual being in person with the seminar is going to help people because, like I said, if you're just doing it online and you're doing yes, you can kind of get a real good grasp on it, but you could be wrong. And without having that person that knows there to kind of tap you on the shoulder to be like, no, it's actually this, it can cause a lot of confusion when it actually comes to taking the test. So again, there's multiple.
It's pretty tricky.
It is. It's very tricky. And again, there's multiple ways to go about doing this. Like we said, there's the AWS seminar, there's Hobart, there's Real Education, there's SI Certs. I'm sure there's others that I'm unaware of right now. But
yeah, Lincoln,
right now,
Lincoln
those are
does
the
it
ones
too.
that I know of. What's that?
Lincoln Electric, they offer a CWI prep course also.
Right, Lincoln, absolutely.
I'll tell you what, with the as far as like the online portion of it, AWS has a really good online portion. It's AWS Learning. You'd have to look on their website how to get a hold of it. Shouldn't be too difficult. But I used to use that when I was teaching over at Valencia. And there's like 14 different modules in there. But I mean, if you go through there and you work those modules and you pass them with a 70% or higher, you stand a really good chance of passing the CWI exam. Also the CWS exam, because I was working on some of those modules to go for the certified welding supervisor. I think that's the next feather I'm going to put in my cap, or at least attempt.
Yeah, that's the next one that I want. I'm going right now for CWI, CWE. And then as soon as I get done with that, man, CWS, absolutely. Just to have it on the resume. So next time we go somewhere, it's like, no, I can actually do this. Well, yeah, like I said, man, I'm getting ready to go do mine. I start class July 1st. I take the test on my birthday, July 13th. It'll be part B. So, no pressure. I'm just bringing along, all the listeners with me to watch me either pass or fail.
Nah, you're going to pass this time, brother. You got it.
Oh, I know, man. I've been studying off and on, honestly, since December, really, just familiarizing myself with terminology and getting familiar with the code book and where things are and learning from my mistakes last time. How you brought up the footnotes. Footnotes is what really kind of tripped me up, is because, and it wasn't that I wasn't aware of the footnotes, it's that when you're in that test, you're trying to get those answers done in a minute.
Yeah, you see, you recognize something in the code book, and that's one of the 5 answers that they're giving you. You pick that low hanging fruit, and you miss that footnote attached to it, and it references to something, says something. And in this situation, here's what it would be.
Yep. That was happening to me, man, because I was getting the right answer, but I was getting the wrong answer because I wasn't reading far enough. I was reading just far enough to get the answer, and so just wound up like, oh yeah, that's it. And then when I went back to check my stuff, I'd be like, oh, that's wrong. Well, probably all these other ones are wrong too. Wonderful.
Read that whole section. Yep.
But that's at least, the only piece of advice I could really give to other people who are getting ready to take this, because that's what I went through when I took it. I know I'm putting that front and center when I take this test this time, is read all the way down. Read everything thoroughly all the way through. Each question that is asked, breathe, read it all the way through. Really understand what exactly they're asking you, because these questions are written in a way that, I mean, you could make the brand new Da Vinci Code with some of these. Honestly, you're when you read a question on this test, some of them you're going, what the hell are they asking me here? Why can't they just put it in English? And that's the test. You have to cipher through things and look for key words, and there's a million little tips and tricks to help you, and that's what these seminars do. Do not just jump into this test and think you can pass it without any kind of pre-study or any kind of seminar before you take it. You will absolutely fail. Absolutely fail. It is way too hard. I read online, people compare this test to what attorneys take for passing the bar exam. This is what welders take to become inspectors. It's that level of difficulty. Anybody that tells you that this test is not hard has never taken it before, or they're full of shit, because it absolutely is. And there is tons of information that you have to understand a little bit about everything to be able to pass it.
Oh, definitely. I tell people all the time, I said that they're like, well, how was the test? I said, well, that 2-week course and that, that 8-hour time frame for that test was harder than the entire, time that I worked on my bachelor's degree. It pales in comparison.
So you did the all 3 in 1 day test, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what I did last time. Now it's different. Now I'm only able to do part B when I finish the actual course, and then I have to set up a time at these Prometric test centers, I guess, after that, to take part A and part C. Now, from what I understand is the Prometric testing centers, you're going to get the results right away. I know a buddy of mine, he's a listener, Daryl Fisher. He just took the actual CWI course himself. I saw his results.
Yeah, he was just up at Hobart.
Yeah, he was just up at Hobart. Loved it up there. Again, see, everybody learns different. He passed his part A and part C, and he was waiting on the AWS to give him the results for the part B. So, I don't know how long that's going to take him, but I'm watching this guy. I'm talking to him all the time. Be like, hey, did you pass? Did you pass? It's kind of cool because he's just ahead of me and he's passing, and watching him get through it, I'm like, yes, good for you. My turn.
Right. Yeah.
So, well, cool, man. Before I let you go, is there any piece of advice that you could give somebody that's looking to do this outside of the general stuff that we've said? Obviously, do your pre-study, take it very seriously. Read things all the way down, read your footnotes. Is there any other little pieces of gold that we could possibly give them?
I would say just, when you go in there on test day, and you're going to hear this from Gerald down there, because that's where I got it, is be the duck, man. You got to be cool, calm, and collective on the surface, but, kind of underneath on the inside, your little legs are just swimming like hell. Don't get psyched out by the test. If you've studied it all, you're pretty confident in the information that you've learned so far. Go in there and relax. Read everything thoroughly. If you have time, go back over your test. Don't skip any questions. Put a little marker in there. Letting you know if you skipped a question. That way your answer key doesn't get thrown off. But I'd say just relax and be calm the day that you go to take your test. Try to get some sleep. That Friday that they dismissed us, before, taking the test that Saturday, I didn't do nothing, man. I went back to the hotel, went and got something to eat, just kind of relaxed. I didn't even look at the code book. I left it in my backpack, didn't even take it out that night before the test, because I didn't want to, start getting freaked out about it and going over everything and second guessing myself. I just put it all aside, gave myself, a good 10-hour mental rest, and hit it hard that Saturday morning.
Yeah, that's kind of smart, man. You're already kind of 13 days in. You can take a night. That's.
But not anything before that, though. You want to study every night that you're there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It is a mind game. When you're getting ready to do this, you're right. It is 100% a mind game. Get some sleep. Be cool, calm, and collective, and just be ready, because it's all in your mind. If you're going to psych yourself out, you're not going to do well. You have to constantly brainwash yourself with positive thoughts and calming thoughts if you have to. Constantly put it in there.
Definitely.
Do whatever you got to do to just bury any of those negative thoughts that could be creeping up that are going to mess up your test game. 100% mental game. All right. Jason, I think we covered it all, brother. It was absolutely awesome to have you back on the show. Before I let you go, please let everybody know where they can see you. I know you got some awesome stuff coming with Weld.com. Let the people know.
Yeah, check us out, Weld.com. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we have new episodes, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram. We have a Weld.com page where we're interacting more with the fans and the supporters and stuff like that. So go ahead and check us out on the Weld.com Facebook group. And you can follow me on Instagram at RedbeardWelds, WELDZ on Instagram.
All right, brother. Thanks again for coming on the show. It was absolutely awesome to have you.
Thanks for having me, Jimmy.
All right, brother. You take care.
Welcome back to another segment of HelpMeWeld.com. Today, Kenny Martinez 96 on Instagram is looking for some helpful criticism and some ways to improve on his welds. So he looks like he's got some 095 wall, 1.5" diameter tubing, 1/4 inch by 2 inch squared tubing. He's using the gas tungsten arc welding process, or TIG for short, running 90 amps, 70S6 filler wire, 1/16 diameter, 332nd tungsten that is 2% thoriated. First, I got to say thanks for all the information. That's a lot of good information right there as far as your parameters. First thing I would say is your puddle. It looks like you do have some undercut in there, not to be a sofa CWI or anything like that, but you even mentioned it in your comments as well here. One thing you could do is either speed up or add more filler metal. So there's 3 ways to control your puddle. You've got your foot pedal with your amps. Travel speed can also affect the heat of your puddle. So the faster you go, the a little bit cooler your puddle is going to be. And your filler metal. So think about, chucking ice cubes in a glass of water. You take that filler metal, as you're dipping it into that puddle, you're cooling that puddle down, right? So that's all it looks like. The problem here is you either have to speed up just a little bit or add some more filler metal, and that way that weld won't wash out as much on you. Well, I hope that helps out. If you have any other questions, go ahead and just throw a comment in there. You can tag me in there at Redbeard Welds or at Weld.com in there. We'll be more than happy to give you some additional pointers and tips to keep us posted on your progress, man. We really appreciate your help and support. Till next time, make every weld better than your last. What was that? Is that it? Huh? Because Todd's just like staring at me.